Welcome to the Spurs News Podcast, your home for all things Tottenham Hotspur. Now, here are your hosts.
Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of the Spurs News Podcast. I am Sam. Joining me to discuss all things Tottenham Hotspur once again this week is my partner in crime, it's Matt.
How you, mate? You alright?
I'm tired. I think
Yeah.
it's the right word. I'm tired. I had a late night. We record this on Thursday the 13th of January, year of our Lord 2022. And last night we exited the League Cup following a defeat to Chelsea in the semi-final. And I was up late reading every possible version and take and interview and everything, and having it all fester in my brain. and then got up this morning to record this, thinking, I wish I hadn't done that.
You should have done it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm tired because I went to the blooming game and I got back late.
You did, yes. Yeah, no, I bet. What time did you get back from the game?
Oh, do you know what? It wasn't too bad. I mean, I left early, which I possibly wouldn't have done if we'd have scored at least a goal, I think. But it was one of those ones where we had two penalties given to us, then taken away. We had a goal given to us, then taken away. And you just think, this could go on for another 180 minutes, and it's just going to be more and more torture. So I'm done. Yeah. I want to get the early train home.
I do think sometimes you got to look at a game and go, not our night. Not our night. I mean, their goal literally came from a goalkeeping error. Other than that, they had a few shots which he dealt with okay. So it was really just a bad night. Just,
Do you think there was too much? Do you think there was anything to? I presume there's not, but my first instinct was to read something into the fact that Lloris had been dropped for that game. But I'm wondering whether he's just rested. He decided to throw the game and just rest him for the.
Well,
the
it's an interesting conversation, and I think it's one worth having because. There are, of course, so many different takes, and one of the things that I do on a pretty regular basis is look at the kind of journalists who have good tracks into Spurs. So generally, if they write a story with something along the lines of sources at the club have said, you can rely on the fact someone at the club has actually said it, whereas, some journalists write, I'm hearing, and that's absolute shite.
Yeah.
But the ones that you generally know were very kind of opinionated, like they had no insight on this, nobody saw it coming. I think the admin on Twitter, the admin for social media for Tottenham, was shocked by the team selection because he decided to pick a picture of Harry Kane with the team that generally had a look on his face like, what?
The double take look, yeah.
Which kind of made me laugh because you've got infinite pick of all the players, the archive they must have there, and that admin generally picked one where he had a look on his face of like, no, really? That's the team? Really? I don't know. Here are my different thoughts, and you jump in with which one you think could be the case. One, Lloris has a slight injury, and they are worried, and they're protecting him because Lloris plays a game against Chelsea, which is potentially a game we've already lost because we were already 2-0 down. He aggravates this injury, then misses the next 10 games, and we've got a big problem. Physios have said, look, stand him down tonight, and he should be fine. He just needs a few days to recover. That's possible. It doesn't seem likely with a goalkeeper, but that's possible. The second option is that Galini, when he was signed on a loan deal, there's X amount of games, X amount of cup games. Conte hinted before the game that he was the cup goalkeeper, kind of like, he's here and that's his reason he's here, and that's why I've picked him. Then said after the game that he picked him because he wanted to give him a chance in a big match to kind of assess him. It's an interesting point of view. It would seem very odd in a cup semi-final to make that change. Not only making the change from what is your first choice goalkeeper, but in essence dropping your captain for a cup semi-final. So it's a strange one, whichever way you look at that. And then the third option, of course, which is the one I'm possibly leaning towards, but maybe just because that's my thinking, if this makes sense. I think it was a clear message sent to the board, which is I've got a goalkeeper here who's world class, who's club captain, and the level that drops out of this team when he's not playing is massive. Here he is on the bench for an evening. Look at the substitute you signed, and tell me why he isn't getting a new contract. Because you were sat behind the dugout and everything.
Yeah.
Did you notice who Lloris was sat next to for the whole game?
No, I didn't see.
Yeah, he sat next to Paratici for the entire match.
Okay.
I don't know. You can look into things and you can think about things a lot. But the whole rumour mill around Lloris and a contract is that he'd like to stay at Spurs. And basically, he's not demanding more money. He's just wants the same money. But he wants a deal over 2 years, not one. At his age, I can understand why he wants that. And I can understand, given his form, why he feels he deserves it. He's been a real loyal servant for us as well. So it's kind of, works both ways, doesn't it? I remember years ago when Man United were chasing him and he was being linked away on a pretty consistent basis. He wouldn't engage with it. He didn't go off on international duty and say, yes, I'd like to leave, or he didn't go to a golf course and say it to Gary Neville. He used to just sort of there's speculation, there's always speculation. And then he'd sign a new deal, and then, the club would keep moving forward. So, I don't know. It's whichever way you wrap up, those are the three different ways of thinking that I've got. But whichever way, it still seems an odd decision.
Do you know? I don't know if it was picked up on the on television when you watched it, because I'm trying to think if it gets included when you're watching it on television. But I found, sometimes you can something fairly small and minor, you can read far more into it than what's actually there.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
you can,
yeah.
but other times there's something to be read into it.
Yeah.
But when the announcer called out, so as per normal, they go through the first 11 of the opposition.
Yeah.
And then they go through the first 11 of the Spurs team.
Yeah.
But Harry Kane's always the last one to get called, and then right at the end he went, and our captain Harry Kane, and he never says our captain Hugo Lloris.
No, that's bizarre.
But why? So why do that? It didn't. What was? Is it? Am I just reading too much into that, or why did the stadium announcer do that?
Maybe it's because if Lloris plays, everyone knows he's captain. Whereas tonight we've got a different captain, so I'm going to make a point. But yeah, no, I'm with you on that. That seems odd. Either you do it for every game or you don't do it. That's. Well, next game you're there, see if he says, and our captain Hugo Lloris, but he won't say and our captain because he starts with Hugo Lloris. I don't know.
Talking about our next game though, Sam, I've got a right quandary, mate. I tell you. Yeah,
I don't doubt it.
No, I was going to say not for not wanting to go, but it's my father-in-law's 70th birthday on a Sunday, and Vicky's like, yeah, you can go to the Arsenal game with Seb, but I feel like I'm going to get paid back at some point, mate, if I go.
I would look on this with two. There's two ways of looking at this, man.
Go on.
One, being single at your age isn't what it all, ain't not that bad. The dating scene can be fun. No, I'm joking. Yeah, that's an interesting one, isn't it? For one, never take marriage advice from me, and two, that feels like one of those traps, doesn't it?
I feel like I'm being set up. Yeah,
that feels like one of those oh no, of course you can stay out if you want. Hang on a minute, that didn't sound right. No. Normally it's get home now. I finished work and we're just going to go for a pint. You all right with that? Can I bring home anything? No, don't you worry. You have a good time. Those are words that sound, the words sound nice, but the tone kind of has a gates of hell closing behind you moment. It all greatly depends on, Seb could be your winner here,
Go on.
Has Seb been to a North London derby?
He hasn't. And
there's your winner. There's your ace card.
It's my ace card.
Because it's like, he's had 70 odd birthdays. Seb's never been to a North London derby before, so no. I mean, good luck with that decision. I personally would go, because I'd work on the theory of I've asked, you've answered.
Yeah.
I'm doing the right thing, and I'm taking Seb to his first North London derby. And when we get back, we'll make a big fuss, and we'll do this, and we'll do that, or try and make a plan which consists of you going to the game and
Exactly.
And also celebrating
the
good man's birthday.
Exactly.
That's where I'd go.
Thank you for your voice, mate.
Yeah, no, unfortunately this is now recorded and on record, so when this all goes wrong, you can just go, look, Sam said. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. No getting out of it, mate.
And I'll be named in yet another divorce. So, just before we move on to looking ahead to the thing, do you think there's much... I had a few messages from people I know just talking about VAR again. A couple of people that I know actually went to the game. And I replied saying, sorry to say, yeah, I think that's right. So, the VAR have got it right. The referee was doing his best to make it an exciting game. The thing that is interesting on VAR, right? So it's going to sound like this is kind of like a sour grapes thing, but it's not. VAR got the decisions right last night, and that's great. That's fine. That's what it's there for. But the thing that is interesting in cup competition in this country, and I do think is worthy of people looking at and discussing, is I don't think if VAR cannot be applied in every single game, I don't think it should be in there. And I know that makes a massive difference because, of course, last night without VAR, we're winning that game 3-1.
3-1,
3-all on aggregate, and we're going to penalties or extra time, which is mad because it shouldn't happen, but we are. Now, I know obviously one goal would change it, but I'm just saying that that's basically what would have happened.
Harry Kane would have had a hat-trick, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I know. Mental. With 250th, 51st and 52nd goal, you'd have been very happy. Unlike the very grumpy bastard he was towards the end. But one of the things that the reason why I'm saying that is because we've got this situation with cup competitions where if it's not at a Premier League team's ground, there's no VAR. So let's say, for example, we were in a semi-final draw and we drew Blackpool, someone like that. They'd managed to get to the semi-final, and in the other semi-final, it was Liverpool-Arsenal.
Sam, last year, Brentford, wasn't it? We got Brentford, didn't we?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So without, you can't have the same competition but with different rules, because what would happen if, like in our game, was with another team, no VAR, and those decisions had happened and we'd gone through. In the other game, for example, let's say Liverpool scored 3 goals, all were chalked off by VAR, and, whereas in our game, those 3 goals would have stood. If you've got the same competition, you have to have the same rules applied, and it's happening in the FA Cup right now. The lower league team went through with a goal that was blatantly offside. I mean, when you watch it back, it's like, wow. I know some decisions you go, okay, I can't blame the linesman there. That was really fast. This one, what game were you watching, my friend?
Yeah.
And they've gone through. Now, to a lower league team's cup runs is a lot of money. This is a big deal to them. And they've gone through. If they played that game, if they'd been drawn at us, for example, and that goal had been scored, it would have been chalked off. So how can you have it where it's the same competition but different rule? It's not the different rules, but it's being applied differently. For me, until every club in the country can use the technology, or for example, when you do this competition, you institute it as a rule from round 3 or something that everyone is on the same level playing field, you shouldn't have it. That's my opinion, because otherwise it's all over the place. Like the Championship doesn't have VAR because not all of the grounds can have it. The Premier League, everybody does, so the VAR is applicable for every single game. That's fair. That's as it should be.
Yeah, I agree, and it's a consistency thing. And look, I don't think I'm overreaching by making this comparison, but it's the equivalent. Right, for me, I think it's the equivalent of going, right, okay, if you play in a Premier League ground, you can have a referee and 2 linesmen. If you play in a non-Premier League ground, we'll just give you 1 linesman. Because the VAR is another referee.
Yeah, and it's the eyes in the sky, if anything. It's now become the most kind of important part.
Yeah, so it's not. I don't think that's me overreaching. I think that's genuinely it's that level of inconsistency.
And it's funny because if you said that, like if you started next season, okay, this season's FA Cup, the one big change is if you're playing against a Prem team at their ground, you've got the referee, the 4th official, 2 linesmen, but anywhere else you'll just have 1 ref with no help, and you'll have to make these best judgment calls. People would say you're mental.
Yeah.
And yet that is, no, you're absolutely spot on. The analogy is perfect, mate. Well done. I don't get why people think it's okay. It's not right. And this isn't a me against technology debate kind of thing. It's just, if you cannot apply the same level of rules to every game, then you need to level it. And the way to level it in the FA Cup and the League Cup is to say, right, in these competitions, because of these teams and the later of it, then there is no VAR. Now, they talked about it before about, okay, well, we'll only introduce it then at the later rounds. But again, teams could have been knocked out or advanced on basically different application of the laws by that point. So, yeah, I don't know. I know there's no perfect system.
No,
but
of course.
It just doesn't seem right.
No, I don't know. I might be completely not remembering well the last season, the semi-final against Brentford. Obviously, at the time they weren't a Premier League team.
Yeah.
Wasn't one of Sonny's goals marginally offside or something?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So there you go. So
again, it's made a big impact.
Yeah.
It's interesting because the funny thing is about VAR was supposed to kind of end the debate. It certainly hasn't done that. It shifted it, and the application of it and the standard of officiating, I think, has come under more of a microscope, and bloody right it deserves to be.
Yeah.
I really think the VAR, if it's highlighted anything for me, it's highlighted that the refereeing in this country just isn't good.
Yeah.
I watch some of the football in other leagues. I watched a bit of football in Germany recently because a fair few academy players that I spotted like years ago for different teams and thought, oh wow, I'll remember that name, have ended up playing in Germany. And one of them's a kid called Jude Bellingham, which a lot of people know now because of course Gareth Southgate picked him for England at the Euros and stuff. But he's playing for Borussia Dortmund as a kid who came from the academy at Birmingham, I think. And he's great over there, but because of that, I sort of keep an eye on a few of the games. The standard of officiating between the division and also the application of technology is so much better abroad. Basically, when they get in the referee's ear, it's just, can you look at this? They don't get in his ear and go, we've looked at this and the guy was outside of the box. It's like, okay, you got the monitor there. It looks like there was a foul to us. Go take a look. And the referees go over it. There's no kind of well, that's not how I saw it. It's alright, and it's quick. The guy runs to the side of the pitch, watches it once. He might say okay, can you show me a different angle? Right, yeah, okay, I can see what you mean now, great. Back on with the game. And the commentary team are listening. So the commentary team are literally able to say to you as a viewing audience there, and they put the monitors up saying, VAR check in progress, the crowd just wait, and then the referee do the signal and away we go. Now, I know we're seeing that a little bit more here now, but still, it just seems so clunky. One of the things last night about one of our penalties, the very first replay shows the contact of the challenge is about 1 foot to 2 feet outside of the box. And then Højbjerg takes 2 more steps and drops in the box. So on the very first replay, it's obvious. So why is it that TMO, for the match official, doesn't have the authority to say to the referee, oh, wow, that was a yard outside the box. Yeah, it's a free kick. Mm-hmm. Not go look at the monitor. He needs to just tell him. We've had so blunt.
Yeah, we've had the conversation before, haven't we, Sam, about the fact that that it's that kind of the ref. So the second penalty that wasn't given. Yeah. From where I was sitting, I was very close to that, much closer to that side. Okay, so straight away I was I turned to the guy next to me and I was like, "That's not a pen. It wasn't a penalty." Yeah. I could see it from where I was sitting. That wasn't a penalty. That's going to get changed round. Yeah. And then he goes to the monitor and I said to him as well. I went, "Look, we know it's not a penalty, so it's going to get turned around. But have you ever, and again, this is something we said, have you ever seen a referee go to the monitor and just stick with his original decision? He never has. He changes his mind. Has it happened? I mean, prove me wrong. Someone prove me wrong. But
there's probably an example somewhere, but in my memory, certainly not. I mean, if you're being called to the monitor, you're being called there for a reason.
Yeah. So is it necessary?
Yeah.
If it was I don't know. 30% of times the referee, 30% of the times referees actually no, I'm going to stick with it, and 70%. But to me it's 100%. So what is the point of him looking at the monitor?
That's fair. It's a thing. It's a debate that's come up in rugby about officiating because when they brought technology first in the rugby, the TMO, the television match official, actually had authority to make the decisions. So what would happen is the referee on the pitch would literally get the TMO in his ear and say, like, stop the game. I've just seen a punch thrown off the ball. Number 4, white, he needs to be yellow carded. You need to put a penalty in this bit. And the referee would stop the game and just do it. Because he's been told by a guy watching it on TV and it's fact. Do you see what I mean? It's like he is the referee and it's fact. They then changed it because a lot of people felt that it diminished the role of the on-field referee, and it has evolved. The rules haven't changed, but it's just evolved now that they show the referee the incident on a video. So the TMO, the third match official, the television match official, is literally, his role is that of a TV director. It's like, okay, here's the replays, here's the better angle. And then the referee on the pitch will make a decision, and like you just said, then the referee on the pitch will say, "Okay, this is how I'm seeing it," and everyone just goes, "Yeah." It's like, well, what's the point? What was the point in watching it, Tender? What's the point of having you there? You might as well just get the referee to say, "Hey, Sky, can you show me that again, just to be sure it's all right?"
Yeah.
And it's a nonsense. And in football, I don't think... See, rugby's a bit different. You put a massive replay on a big screen in rugby, people will just go, ooh, that's bad, or something like that. I think in football, it could start a riot. So, I don't think they should show the replays the referee's watching on the big screens in stadiums. I don't think that's a good idea. But, at the same time, it is bizarre. Like, why have a referee watching it if that person cannot make decisions?
Yeah.
What's the point? Right. He's a qualified referee watching replays from multiple angles. He needs to be the one that says, this is what it is. You've not seen the replays. I've seen it 3 or 4 times whilst play continued. You need to stop play and bring it back because of this. Not, I've looked at this 3 or 4 times. Now you need to look at it 3 or 4 times. What's the point?
Yeah, and also, like you say, for objective things like that, it's almost like, you sit going to your kitchen and picking up an apple and going, this is an apple, and then getting someone else to come in and go, I just need you to confirm this is an apple. The first, it's an apple, you're just confirming the obvious, aren't you?
Yeah, you are.
It's silly.
Yeah.
It's really, really silly.
I know what I'm doing with my day now. I'm going to confirm things with everybody.
Yeah.
Like, oh, see this window? Is it a window?
Yeah, I'm going to put my shoes on, but I'm going to knock next doors and make sure that I put my shoes on. Can they confirm I'm wearing my shoes?
Yeah. Could you imagine? I'll be locked up by the end of the day, and that's how mad it is.
Yeah.
So League Cup. So our League Cup campaign's over. Last year we were beating finalists. This year we're beating semi-finalists. Our record in the League Cup continues to be one where we do progress. It's a frustrating one because obviously any chance to try and get hold of some silverware always feels like it's a step away from us for whatever reason. Going out of the semi-final on paper isn't a bad season. Going out to the arguably still the best team in Europe at the moment isn't a bad thing. One of the things I think fans often forget as well is, these games happen like that. We knocked them out last year. It was only last season we played them in the semi-final and we knocked them out. Or was it last? No, it wasn't the semi-final. It was the quarter-final.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So, that's last season, which none of us thought was going to happen, and it did. This season they've beaten us over the 2 legs, and they were the better side. So it's what it is. It's you can't get too wrapped up in it, and I think you got to kind of shake it off. I think the team selection thing, I think that's a discussion that's going to run. Do you feel like the honeymoon's over for Conte after that last night? Because it certainly felt like the fans were pissed.
Yeah, it's a weird one because I've been very positive and
definitely
enthusiastic, and I don't get me wrong, this is enough. Like, do you know, funny enough, because where I was obviously where I was sitting I was 18, row 18, and just literally directly behind Conte, and there was a lot of abuse towards Hitchin. Funny enough, a lot of abuse.
Yeah,
this should
there
have
is.
been fault.
Every game.
Yeah, but I feel like he's he can really improve players, but there's just some players that I just don't think he's going to be able to improve. And and Ndombele got dropped quite rightfully after his behaviour.
What do you make of the comments afterwards? Because I really don't understand it. I don't know if you've seen this. I've just kind of done it. So he was asked afterwards why he was dropped, and he basically said, "I made the decision. It was tactical, but I also listened to the club, spoke to the club, as in like the higher ups, and I wouldn't have made that decision without them."
Yeah, because I think there is an element of the more he criticises him, the more his value goes down.
But don't you think that? Yeah, well, yeah, that's a good point. But don't you think that like there's two ways to read that, and neither way is kind of good. One is I had to get their permission to drop him, which I think as a fan I really don't like that idea. You know. But then on the flip side, it's kind of like they told me to drop him. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like. I know English isn't his first language, so sometimes when he answers questions, he then clarifies them at a different point, and that's probably what's going to happen. Because there's a couple of times he said stuff, and I've been a bit, hang on, that doesn't sound right. And then when he's clarified, you can actually you see what he means. So probably in the next press conference, it get cleaned up. But journalists being the way they are, you know, they've absolutely run with that. I think by the time he'd finished speaking, the Daily Mail had a breaking news. Antonio Conte told to drop Ndombele. I was like, that's not what he said.
No, yeah, you've just completely.
That's not what he said. You've dived on that quickly, but I dare say it got about 1,000 clicks in the first 30 seconds, and I was one of them because I was reading everything last night in some sort of mad depression.
There's one player, obviously Ndombele is a player that has to go, but another player, and this might sound like a really crazy theory as to why he's been so awful for us, but
okay,
it was because I was just pondering it. So Matt Doherty,
yeah,
it started for me. It started because I say where I was sitting, I wanted to catch a video of the players coming out the tunnel because I was so close. Yeah. So on the big screen, they show the players getting ready, probably like QC on television.
Yeah.
And even just looking at him on the television, ready to come out, he just looks a fallen man. He looks like someone who's just been told he's lost his entire family in a car accident. Right? He spends his demeanour is like that permanently. Right? And I can't for the life of me work out why. And I've got a theory.
Yeah.
Okay. Now. You and I, we're retirement age now. We're past retirement age, right? Unless you're the famous Italian goalkeeper, who's thankfully the only guy that makes me feel young in football.
Yeah.
Now, say for example, right, you get a phone call from Arsenal, and they're like, "Do you know what, Sam? We need you, mate. You're a rugby man, but we need you. Yeah. Like, come and play for us. We'll pay you $100,000 a week. Come and play for Arsenal, right? Yeah. You're not going to You're not going to turn down $100,000 a week, are you?
No, probably not.
But you're playing for Arsenal, aren't you? You're a die-hard Tottenham fan, and you're playing for Arsenal. Now, I'm not questioning his professionalism, right? He's a professional footballer. He's professional. Yeah. But there has to be an element of that. The guy was a die-hard Arsenal fan. He was deleting tweets about how much he hated Spurs. Yeah. Is there anything in that, or am I just reading too much into it?
I don't know. It's difficult because you look at that and you could easily say, will someone put the same level of application in when they genuinely have a kind of built-in hatred for the club? I don't know. It's difficult because you look at it as professionals, and also the way he was introduced, the tongue-in-cheek deleting tweets thing. You kind of think, well, he's obviously got a good sense of humour about it. He's professional. It's fine. That was the best way of introducing him. But the guy didn't settle well straight away. He struggled straight away, and it's a big thing, and it sounds stupid, but I remember reading an interview years ago about Jermaine Genius at Newcastle, and he described playing at Newcastle and living there, and the football club basically being the be-all and end-all of everyone's lives there, was like living under a microscope 24/7, and he really struggled with it. And then he moved to Tottenham. He said, you're in London, one of countless clubs in London, all these different things. He said, and he felt, just felt more at home, felt more relaxed, and he was really happy about it. I think Matt Doherty's literary career, he moved across the Wolves, basically for their academy system. He's come up through the divisions with them. He was very settled and at home there. And he obviously felt, and his agent obviously felt, he was up for the challenge of moving to, again, this isn't being disrespectful to Wolves, but moving to one of the bigger clubs in the country. I just think he looks like a rabbit in the headlights. Like, I don't... And there's this thing like imposter syndrome. He looks like someone who just doesn't believe he belongs there. And if you believe that, you're going to manifest that. And he does. He just comes across, like you said, every time you see him, he looks broken. He looks like, why am I here? Why am I still being played?
Yeah.
You know, he's playing, and here's the thing, like, if he's ever going to have good games for us, it's not going to be as a left wing back.
No.
The guy's beyond right-footed.
He doesn't use his left foot, he just doesn't use it.
He just can't, when he runs, I'm almost amazed he doesn't trip, because his left foot has to be used. So it's a bizarre thing, but then last night you look at that and you see Sessegnon on the bench and you think to yourself, well, why ain't he starting? But then of course you know Sessegnon's injury record and you think, okay, Reguilon's currently carrying an injury, Sessegnon's, you got to be managing carefully at the moment. Is his thinking, we've already lost this game? And he said afterwards, without saying I threw the towel in because we'd already lost, he basically said, I'm looking at a bigger picture. I'm thinking of all the other games we got to come. And the games we got to come, of course, our next 2 games in the league are huge, because we play Arsenal and then we play Chelsea in the league. Arsenal at home, Chelsea away, and they are massive, massive games for the club and our ambitions for this season, because if by any imagination, and I know it doesn't feel like we're able to right now, but if we are to win both of those games, we then go into our games in hand, Leicester, which I know is there as well, sorry I didn't leave that off, and our other game in hand, we would then be in the position, and it would be on us and our results alone to finish the season in the top 4. And that's massive.
Yeah, he's had conversations, like you've said, like you alluded to, he's had conversations with the top brass, and you do wonder whether that part of the conversation is, look, put a decent team out, but the League Cup isn't our focus. The top 4, the Champions League, the money that comes with it, that's our focus.
As fans, it is very, very hard to... Like, during Pochettino's time when we were playing really great football and we were doing well and we had a really good squad there, whenever you field a weakened team in the cup for anything, or you'd see Worms start and you sort of think, why, this is ridiculous, it's a chance to win a trophy. The frustration was there for me in those moments, because I felt like we were a team that could be and should be lifting a trophy. That squad deserved to pick something up. Do you see what I mean with that? Right now we are so much in transition, we are so, you can be critical of Antonio Conte, but he's literally inherited this team. He didn't get a pre-season with them, he's inherited them. And he's inherited an absolute hodgepodge of previous managers' failed visions. And Pochettino inherited that when he arrived. He inherited about 3 different managers' bits of squads, and then he moulded it, and it took him a little while. And Conte's inherited it, and he has managed to improve us without a shadow of a doubt. Like, we have improved since he took over. People are a bit on him at the moment, and that's fine, but we have definitely improved. The statistics show how much we've improved in every way. I shared an article with you guys in the Spurs news chat yesterday, and if you've not read it yet, do, because it's like a statistical analysis of everything from the amount the team runs now, the distance covered, the number of interceptions, tackles, everything's increased, everything's improved, which just goes to show the players have responded. The players are buying into the way he wants them to play, and they are applying it. And the reality is, and the conclusion from some fair-minded sports journalists, is Tottenham under Conte are a good side. Some of the players aren't up to it, though. So some of the players need to improve. But where do we go in terms of the transfer window and stuff like that? Because I don't know. It feels like you just said then. It feels like top 4, like Anthony, we want the club to go, but we need the money from the Champions League. If you can get us top 4, we can guarantee you're going to get backed with X. If you don't get us top 4, then the backing's going to be Y. And he's therefore made the decision of, okay, if I want to turn this club around, I need X. So therefore, this is what my priority is going to be.
look, like you said, we're a team heavily in transition at the moment. Okay,
Yeah.
so it needs rational thinking from fans. Okay,
Yeah.
I understand the frustration. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to diminish people's Spurs fans' frustrations. I understand them. Okay,
Yeah.
but like you say, how we've improved under already. We're unbeaten in the Premier League under him so far.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we
Yeah.
played Liverpool, but we've played a few of them sort of mid to lower. So you don't know whether Nuno might have got those results as well. But as it stands, we're unbeaten under him in the league, and yeah, like you say with Pochettino, I remember when Pochettino first took over, he made who's the guy that went to Watford, the defender?
Yunus Kabul.
Kabul. He made him captain,
Yeah.
right? And he soon realised that he's maybe not the captain we need, And so he was looking at the different players. He was working out, and then he bought some good players, bought some young players in, developed some players as well. Like, I mean, Dyer. He developed him, didn't he? And other players as well. Delhi was another one that came in, and so I just think, yeah, like you said, he's not had a pre-season. If we can finish this season in the top four without a trophy, okay, again for another season, but it's the building, like you say, it's the building block, isn't it? It's the right, okay, we finished the season in the top four. We're now a Champions League club again, okay. We know that money's coming in. He can then, like you say, be given the money to bring in some better quality players. Yeah. Maybe it sounds really plausible, and it sounds. I don't think he threw yesterday's game.
No.
But I went. So it might have just been coincidence, but I mean I went. I wasn't going to go, but I looked on the website, and that where I sat. Normally, when they get resold, they always go for this random amount of £233.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I ain't paying that. And then I looked on it, and then that seat that I picked was face value at 25, and I was like, oh wow.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, right. So let's just grab that one, right? So it was far, far cheaper, but I wasn't going to go. But I just think that say I was sitting there, and the guys to my left, the guys to my right, we all had that same, and I think I said it to you in the chat. I think I said it in the chat yesterday. I went there expecting us not to do anything, but hoping for us to get a result. We all was the same. There was no under Pochettino between 16 and 18. Right?
Years,
you'd have gone to that game thinking we're going to do them. And we did. We did. Like, we beat them at their ground. We beat them. I mean, remember the one at Wembley when Sonny scored that amazing goal? We beat them 3-1.
Yeah.
But there was not that expectation. We all know in our hearts that we're in transition. We know that. It's the hope. Isn't the hope that kills you? I think if we just kind of just rationally look at it and realise we're a team that have got, like you say, a hodgepodge of other managers' ideas and that. Let Conte. Give him the time to stamp his mark, and this guy will come through for us. He will, 100%.
I think so. I mean, I think there's certainly a lot of tension, and I think the tension is deserved because the tension is not brought about by Conte. No one's holding him to this kind of. He's not responsible for this. The responsibility of where we are from where we were, it falls on Daniel Levy and the owners and the lack of football and ambition showed by them, really, because I think this is the problem with the fans, the problem with the anger in the fan base, which is like just under the surface all the time. We win a few games and everything feels great, but the minute we lose, that anger is right there. It's like really quick, to come out. And that's down to them. And the problem is it doesn't always get directed at them because it gets kind of misdirected. Like, we lose a game and Eric Dyer mishits a pass. Everyone wants the guy lynched. But that's not. You shouldn't be mad at the individual player. We should, because of the situation, we should be mad at the club's owner and board for putting us here. Pochettino, after those 2 great seasons, just made it abundantly clear to everybody that we needed about, a clear out. He needed to, clear 3 or 4 players, bring in 3 or 4. He made it clear to everybody, and we signed nobody. Not just that we only made one of the changes he suggested. Nobody. We then went through another window, and then another window. Then we made one, and then we went through another window. And the club are going to point to the fact that when we got to the Champions League final, they then spent. But they spent that money on Tanguy Ndombele and Giovanni Lo Celso and Ryan Sessegnon.
Over 100 million.
And yeah, that's what. When it's all in, so if you put all the add-ons, which of course it won't because they've done so badly, then technically Tanguy Ndombele could total at 60 million. You got the other one at 40 odd, and then so it's like 125 to 130 million. Now, obviously, those add-ons aren't going to go on, but that's still best part of 100 million quid spent on those three players. Now, Ryan Sessegnon, I still believe has a real future with us and the club and as a footballer. But since he's joined us, he's gone out on loan and he's been injured, and that's it. Tanguy Ndombele, I don't even want to talk about. No. But that's everybody knows that situation. Giovanni Lo Celso, last night, for me, looked like he was fine. I made the joke, Eric Lamela came back and was wearing a Lo Celso face mask. Yeah. Because he genuinely looked like he cared. But his application and his injury record since joining us, it's been atrocious. None of those guys that have been signed were the first... Tanguy Ndombele was Pochettino's first choice. And we will never know if Pochettino could have got the best out of him. We will never know that because he didn't get long enough with him. So that's kind of like one of those things. We're just never going to know the answer to that. But he was very much a Pochettino choice. But the others weren't. Giovanni Lo Celso was the backup signing because the club wouldn't pay the money for Bruno Fernandes, who's gone to Man United and, as we all know, has done pretty well.
Settled straight away, didn't he?
Yeah, just walked into the league and just carried on. Ryan Sessegnon was again a club signing, but again, you'll never know if Pochettino's fitness regimes and stuff could have got the best out of him because he went. So then you got Jose Mourinho's come in. And the signings that are then made when Jose's there are all based around Jose's kind of philosophy of win now, don't care about the future. So we signed Matt Doherty. And again, I said this at the time and I still stand by it. On paper, that signing was a great signing. The guy was tall, physically imposing, which we didn't have. He was great getting forward, can play fullback as a wing back. He was dominating in the air, both offensively and defensively, and because he came through the Wolves Academy, despite being Irish, was classed as homegrown. So everything about that signing made sense. It has been awful.
Yeah, complete mistake.
Absolutely awful. Yeah. And you look and you walk your way through the other signings, everything like that. Højbjerg is a player who, when he came in, gave 100%, and I was always very impressed with him. I think the guy needs to be dropped. At the moment, I watch him on a regular basis. Just let players run off him.
Yeah, he got a lot of stick last night as well.
Well, yeah, and see, this is the thing about like players in the top level. That guy's a machine in terms of not getting injured a lot and just playing and playing and playing. But there is such a thing as, even if his physical condition's still great, there is such a thing as like mental fatigue. Like he's constantly playing. And also sometimes, and it is a genuine thing as well, human nature, is if you feel like your first name on the team sheet and you're playing at that level that he is right now, which isn't great, and he's still getting picked, why does he need to improve?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
He needs to be benched, and he needs someone to sit down and go, look, these players are running off of you. That can happen. You need to work on this. We need to go to the training ground, work on this, and until you buck your ideas up, Winks is starting every game. I'd love to see a run of games with Winks and Skip.
Yeah, do you know, Winks for me yesterday, I feel like he's still, don't get me wrong, the effort he put in was fantastic, but there's still 2 or 3 or 4 wayward passes that frustrate me with him, I feel like he could be so close to the finished article, but it's something that's not quite there, But you can't fault him for effort. I mean, the guy was running through walls yesterday for us.
This is going to sound like I'm making excuses for him, and I know a lot of people think I am. But I am getting increasingly frustrated watching him. Dyer's another one, and they get slammed for like the pass going wrong. No one's criticising the fact that our teammates are doing shite to get open, to receive the ball. Does that make sense? Like if you look forward, if you get actually don't watch the Chelsea game back. But our next game, right? Our next time we win and we feel good about things, and you watch the highlights again, check the movement, because it frustrated. Lucas Moura works his ass off to get free.
Yeah.
Works his ass off to be available to receive the ball and turn and get his head up. And he is the only one. Like, it drives me. Like, Kane is doing it in bits. Like, yesterday, in the second half, Kane clearly decided he was pissed off.
Yeah.
And he looked more like the Harry Kane that we all know, in terms of trying to get stuck in, trying to turn people, trying to get shots away. And he worked to try and find some space. In the first half, the bloke stood there. I watched countless times where people put the ball up, looked up, like, okay, who wants it? And he was stood there.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're not going to run in behind. You're not going to come in to pick the ball up so someone else can run in behind. I mean, you're doing nothing. It's just... And then the pass gets intercepted and everyone goes, oh, and the person who passed the ball gets hammered, and you're like, yeah, I get it, but at the same time, geez. You know, if you passed it backwards and it went to one of our players, you'd all go mad at that.
Yeah, sure,
you know?
Sure.
So it's like, people, the team, it's like the cohesion just isn't there, or the message isn't there, or they're just not working hard enough. But it's an interesting thing again. You know, we talked about why was Lloris dropped, potentially why was Lloris not playing, and he said it's because he was resting him. Well, I just saw a lot of people go, well, surely Kane would be the same scenario. Why is Kane playing again then? And
that's the problem where we haven't got a second striker.
There you go. Yeah. If you're sending a message to the board, okay, this is, you know, I've dropped Lloris for this game because I need him fit for the next however many. This is the backup you signed me, right?
Well, when we played Morecambe, we didn't have any strikers on the pitch to start with.
Well, I was going to mention the Morecambe game, but I thought we were all depressed enough.
We won that. We won it.
We won 3-1. We won, but it just illustrated again that there are some people at the club who shouldn't be there.
Me and Seb were sitting in the south, but a lot lower than where we normally sit. We was 8 rows back, and he absolutely loved it. It was safe standing, but it was only probably from when Ndombele come off. That's when everyone stood up. I stood up the whole time, and I do feel a little bit ashamed that I screamed out the C word to him in front of my boy, which was really embarrassing. Wow. But you know when something riles you so much, and I think in an article I read, it said that as he was hearing the boos, he was slowing down, and I think he was. I think he was actually just.
He generally was antagonising the whole stadium. I watched it, and the funny thing was, because he's such a I don't know what the right word is. He's so friggin' laid back in everything he does, and the way he moves, always quite sluggish and stuff. Like, you see him just walking into the ground in those "the team have arrived" videos, and everyone's kind of brustling along, and he's just there at the back, you know. It makes me think of that advert for that years ago, you know, Mr. Soft, why don't you tell? That's, you know, he's kind of in his own little world, just chugging along. So when he starts leaving the pitch looking like that, I'm not thinking about it. I'm not thinking anything. So I kind of looked away, and then I started hearing booing. I'm like, oh dear, what's going on? So I've looked up again. I'm like, he hasn't moved. He's still in the middle. We're 1-0 down. He's being subbed, and the bloke's basically just stood there, like, meandering. I mean, I'll tell you what, though, and I'm not a big Harry Kane fan at the moment, but I did see a shot of the look on his face of when Tanguy was getting close. I genuinely think he was going to grab him by the throat. He had this. Lucas Moura was there as well, and Moura, I think, just went on. I think Moura just went, no, sod this.
Can't wait any longer.
Like, I'm getting on the pitch. And he went straight down the tunnel, which I think was smart, because I think people in that stadium might have absolutely gone for him. But I can't understand your thinking with that. Should he? I mean, you said to me after the game, I don't ever want to see him in our shirt again.
No, I don't.
I agree with that.
I
remember feeling that way when a young kid got substituted by Martin Yole.
That's right.
And he threw the shirt at him.
Was it Garley? Had some Garley?
Yeah, and he did play for us again. But I remember saying at the time, he apologised. He went on and just said, like, absolute temper in the moment. It was a completely wrong thing to do. And it's kind of like, okay, well, you took it on the chin more than our Prime Minister does, so all right, fair enough. But yeah, I just watch that. And I think it's because we're frustrated anyway. It's like you've got all the ability in the world and none of the aptitude to really try. And that winds me up more than someone who's crap. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It was really. And do you know what I found frustrating as well is that a bit like what you alluded to with how Conte can be misrepresentative of what he said. I was finding a lot on social media, people going, "Oh, how can you boo him for his performance?" He wasn't getting booed for his performance, right?
No.
Delhi had an awful game as well. Delhi came
applauded.
Yeah, he came off
the pitch,
walking behind the goal. We all clapped him, because he didn't have a great game, but he's just well done. But it'd have been the same for Ndombele. There would have been no booing at all if he'd just ran off the pitch.
If he just got off the pitch. I mean, the other one who was subbed was Brian Gill, who was the other side of the pitch, saw his number and ran.
He was so Ndombele was the first one to get his name called.
Yeah.
Gill was the third, and he still overtook him.
Yeah.
So it's just honestly, I know it sounds a bit extreme, and do you know what? The fact I say it now, few days after the game, means that it's something that I do not want to see that guy wear a Spurs shirt again.
No, I don't even think what the reception would be. Do you know what I mean?
I'd boo him if he picked him for Arsenal. I think I'd actually boo, because the guy's attitude is just terrible.
Yeah, I can't imagine. But it's like, what do we do? No one's paying his wages that we got him on. No one's buying him for the sort of money Daniel Levy wants for him. I mean, we're screwed. This situation's a joke. He needs to just be gone, and the club need to accept they've made a massive balls up with this and take the hit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we did advance. We did beat Morecambe in the end, and we do play Brighton at home in the next round. So
it's a home tie.
The round of the FA Cup is home against Brighton. So, fingers crossed we can advance in the FA Cup. Mate, before we run out of our time slot, let us go to the questions from our fellow Tottenham fans across the various forms of social media.
Now it's time for your comments from our social media.
Where do you want to start, mate? We've had messages, we've had Facebook, and we got Instagram.
Instagram, should we go? Go back to our normal.
Start with Instagram.
Yeah.
I always feel like I need music for this, like da 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 da.
There
like
you
having
go.
the chart music in the background.
Something to work on, Sam.
Yeah. I got nothing else to do. Right. First up, Johnny Stark sent a message into Instagram that says 2 questions. You only get one, Johnny. You only get one. Surely Brandon Austin can't be as bad as Innie. Yeah, very good. 2, do you have any concerns about Markande leaving the club? He scores goals for fun in Premier League 2 and wins Player of the Month every other month, yet he can't get a call-up or a decent loan. Meanwhile, Spurs are bringing in young players like Gill and Sarr that seem to be blocking his path. That's a fair point. So to go to the first question, Brandon Austin can't be as bad as Golini. I'm going to say something controversial now. Alright? This is very controversial. Might get me cancelled by Tottenham fans. Golini is not as bad as everyone's making out he is.
Yeah.
He made a mistake last night coming for the ball. And I've seen Lloris make that mistake 10, 20 times in his career with us. And he still had a good game. And Golini made 3-4 fairly decent saves during the game. I know from range, but still, he had to save them. And it's not easy playing that role where you come in, you come out, you're in and out of the team and stuff. You need to try and get your rhythm. I don't think he would have expected to start. I think when he got the call, he probably went, "What?
What? Yeah, I played on Sunday."
Yeah, no, that's 2 games in a row. That's silly. No, you're drunk. Yeah, Someone submitted the wrong team sheet, guys. My name's on it. They've just not overwritten the one from Sunday. Clearly, it's an error. I'll go sit back down. Because I just had a heavy breakfast, So yeah, I don't think you can. This is Craig. I know I'm going to get slammed for that, but I don't think he's as bad as everyone's making out.
I'm always going to have
I'm going to have a level, but
yeah, I agree with you, and I'm always going to have a soft spot for him because he looks a bit like our admin Dan, doesn't he? So
freaking unit, yeah, not Polynesian Dan. Do you have any concerns about Markande leaving? No, Markande, if you cut him, he'd bleed lily white. The guy loves the club, and I don't think he's going to leave. I think the club have got something lined up for him. In terms of a loan, I don't think you're going to see him get called up into the squad for a game, because I think now this window's open, they're assessing the options for him. Yeah, he loves the place. I'd be shocked. I'd be very shocked if he was to leave. Yeah. The next one comes in from Jake Bennett. Jake Bennett says, "Good morning, guys. Hope I'm not too late on the question front, because I've got a couple." Everyone's just taking the mic today.
Give an inch.
Hell? I know, right? I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on ball retention. Hey, we don't do Manscaped anymore. I know it's not everything, but I think it's something we've struggled with since Mourinho, and I think it really hurts us, especially against the bigger teams. We just don't seem to be able to hold on to the ball long enough to take the sting out of the game. I've seen we've been linked with Jesse Lingard. What are your thoughts on this? Okay, so let's do ball retention first. It is a bit of an issue we've had for a little while. We have addressed it massively. You're probably not seeing it as much because the most recent game in all I remember is Chelsea, who are a bloody good team, and so you have to accept that they're going to have a bit more of the ball than you, because we don't have the players to dominate them like they have the players to dominate us. But in games like against Crystal Palace and stuff like that, it was an example used under Nuno when we lost to Palace 3-0. Our possession stats, our ball retention, everything was just atrocious. And then under Conte against Palace, it was almost triple everything. You know, you could see the massive difference. And in every game, it's improving game on game. I don't think it would have improved against Chelsea in the League Cup, but in the league anyway, where the stats are readily available, the PremierLeague.com, etc., it's phenomenal, the difference. The players' confidence plays a big part in this. You're talking about ball retention and taking the sting out of the opposition attacks. When Chelsea pressed us high at any point last night, our defenders looked like rabbits in the headlights. Poor Japhet Tanganga looks so out of his depth in these games. It's bad, you know. It's bad. And he, for me, is a player that is going to suffer real impact on his confidence if he doesn't get a loan. Like, find him a championship team where he's going to start every week, get him there, and let him stay there for the rest of the season. Let him get 20, 30 games under his belt and let him feel better, you know, because after these games, Romero hopefully is going to be coming back in soon. Dyer should hopefully be back in real soon. Tanganga, you don't want his impact on this season be in those games. You need him to play and feel better, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the ball retention thing, we are definitely improving, and the system under Conte is an interesting one where some games you're going to surrender the ball and try and counter, and some games you're going to try and dominate it, and we have seen that. One of the games recently, visually, I thought we didn't retain the ball, and then at the end of the game we had like 55% of the possession. I was in shock. It was like, how in the hell did that happen? Like, I'm watching the game, like I watched the whole game, they've had the ball loads, but no, we had 55%. Jesse Lingard, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a decent shout. He had a good season at West Ham, didn't he? But yeah. I don't know, it's not really.
Well, Jake, actually, you'll like this. Jake says, I find it funny that Sky Sports News said that Spurs fans would be excited about this one. Doesn't really do anything for me.
Yeah.
Which is basically what you're saying, which is like, yeah, I suppose.
I'll take
Jesse
him,
Lingard,
but yeah.
He ain't the one that all of us are going to go, yeah, what a signing.
Yeah,
this is going to take us forward.
We're not going to be like the Newcastle fans when they got taken over, like celebrating outside the stadium, are we, if we sign him?
No. I don't know what it'd take for us to go like that. I think possibly Jeff Bezos buying us and saying, I've got £1 billion transfer kitty, go nuts.
Every single transfer window you can have $1 billion.
I think I'd probably... That'd get me outside the stadium having a few beers.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
me too.
Alright, there we go. Jeff, if you're listening, get on with it.
Come on.
Lastly, not so much a question, but a statement. Really pleased to see Winks, Sessegnon and a few others getting some game time. Especially Winks, as I think he's a cracking player. As always, great work with the podcast. I hope you're both well, and everyone else involved, of course. Yes, they're all well. We're well, and that's the important thing. Ooh, we've got a question here from someone with their own theme. God, and this is a theme I can actually play as well, legally.
Now it's time for a comment from Island Brother.
course, that theme can mean only one man, and it is the Island Brother. And his question is, hey guys, happy and blessed 2022 to you and all your families. We rise and we fall, but at least around the next corner we rise again. The mighty Hotspur. Just saw the interview after the loss. Conte looks broken already. So does Paratici. Do you think that they will get backed in this window? My fear and expectation is that Levy wants to see these players have a proper pre-season with Conte before he can accept taking any losses. I fear, but expect Conte to tear up his contract when that comes down the line. Anyway, stay safe. We do seem to be, as a fan base, living day to day in fear of waking up to an announcement that he's gone. It's kind of, it feels like everyone's just like, oh no, any day now, and he's just gonna walk. I don't think this is a very healthy way for us all to live. It's kind of like if you're dating a beautiful woman and it's, you know, we don't know day to day what's gonna happen.
I'm punching, yeah,
definitely. Every time I'm ever dating, that's the case. But so yeah,
I think, look, to put a positive spin on it. Like I've mentioned probably about 4 or 5 times already on this podcast, where I was sitting yesterday, I was kind of just probably, I was looking at what Conte looks at every home game, and we have got a world-class, insane stadium with incredible support. Obviously, it quieted down when Chelsea scored, but before that, you listen to the wall and the south and the sound that comes from it and the support. You've got things in place, and look, don't get me wrong. I'm not for one second going to say that now is when Levy's going to start chucking the millions and millions at him. No. But although it's almost like it's all it takes, just to that is the last key, like the last piece of the jigsaw. If he was to say, look, let's start seriously investing in the club, everything's here. It's not like Conte's standing. Trying to think of an example. There you go, the Leicester Stadium, for example. I mean, I've got nothing particularly against King Power Stadium, but it's not anywhere near our stadium, you know. So you can imagine standing
it's nowhere near our
stadium.
There
you go. So like,
it's in Leicester.
There you go. Yeah. So standing there in front of a crowd of 20,000. I mean, that is their capacity, about 20,000. And then although look, they've won a couple of more trophies than us in the last 5 years. It's still like, this is just like, it's like the everything would feel like, for Conte, is it the right match for a world-class manager like Conte? But I feel like he's standing, you've got a world-class manager standing in a world-class stadium with world-class training facilities. There's just the final bits need to be put in place, and he is the right fit. You know, we're as a club aren't punching by having someone as Conte, as someone like Conte as our manager. If we could just put those last 2 or 3 pieces into place, which comes down to money, which is what Levy's not done before, you know.
No, it's the problem. The next one we got now is a message we had come in is from Chris Vanderlei, and I actually got him to tell me how to pronounce his surname because, you know, I butcher names. Chris says, "Hi team, just wanted to say a long time listener from Australia." That's how he said it.
You butchered the accent. I mean,
he said, "Just long time listener from Australia. Love listening to the podcast." Everything about it's great. He ain't gonna listen again, is he? I've just ruined this. Especially love to guess the jersey number game. Yeah, what on, son? You're welcome, Chris, and you're also welcome to the comedy act we sent down, known as our cricket team. Hope you're all enjoying that special show every week.
We're celebrating a draw. That's how bad it's got.
Oh, celebrate it, mate. We were doing rain dances. I read a post the other day about us not ever replacing Ndombele, and we are still feeling the effect from that in our midfield. It got me thinking that the state of the squad is ultimately down to very poor signings and looking for diamonds in the rough rather than signing real quality. We thought we replaced Ndombele with Ndombele, crash and burn. Lo Celso to replace Eriksen, crash and burn. Aurier to replace Trippier, crash and burn, and Doherty to replace crash and burn. Would you agree that the failure of recruitment in these key positions is one of the main reasons we have an average at best squad? Chris, I could go into massive detail on this, but I think I'm just going to say yes.
Yes, we've kind of alluded to it, haven't we?
100% correct. And that is something that needs to change, like, drastically. The next message we had come in is actually from Polynesian Dan himself of podcast fame, Spurs News alumni, hero to all, frigging unit, don't ever upset him. Are you happy to see Conte giving homegrown players a chance? Skip, Sessegnon, Tanganga all getting minutes recently, but are they at a level for Spurs to push for a top 4 trophy? I guess my question also links back to the potential signings would be another barrier for these players, i.e. Traore coming in would definitely limit Tanganga, possibly Sessegnon appearances. Kessie coming in would directly affect Skip. I think they're very different players in very different situations. So, for example, if we use Tanganga for an example, I personally think Jaffet needs to go out on loan. Personally, I think the Chelsea games especially, but it's more than that this season, has shown that he's not been able to adapt properly to the system and the way Conte wants him to play, not yet. And he's looked out of his depth, and that's in turn, you can see his confidence has gone. Do you remember when he first came into the scene under Jose? It was against Liverpool, I think. And he basically got in Mane's face, like, for the whole game, and everyone loved it. It was like, this young kid coming in being really aggressive, abrasive, and
that's right.
Stuff.
Yeah.
And then this season he got sent off against Palace, and he's not recovered. He's not got that same level, because I think now he's nervous to be that physical, that abrasive, and he stands off. And like last night, so many times the guy just ran off him. And you're like, that wouldn't have happened. Before that sending off, he'd have made sure they didn't get past him. And then you could see his nerves kicking in because they were getting past him and he'd commit fouls. Like, the players were just lining him up and just sticking a leg and knowing he was going to kick it. It's just like, oh no, oh yeah, okay, free kick, thank you. Yeah, and that's the problem, because once teams work you out like that, once teams know you're nervous and once they sense it, that ball was going down his side constantly.
Yeah.
So he needs almost protecting to let the kid get his confidence back, let him play some games. Oliver Skip was being introduced to the first team a bit around the squad, and then he went on that loan, and that loan converted him from being a good academy prospect to being a good first team player. And I think Tanganga needs that.
Yeah, right.
Skip, you're talking about Traore potentially coming in, limiting Tanganga's time. Well, I think Tanganga should go out on loan, especially if we sign Traore. However, Kessie coming in, the person I see Kessie replacing is Højbjerg. Like, right now, I think Skip's probably one of the best players in the team. And I know people just think I'm saying that, but I genuinely believe it. So, to me, that wouldn't impact him at all. It might impact rotation a little bit more, because Skip does still need to be managed. The kid's 20, 21. So, you can't, whilst that kid's still developing, you cannot expect him to play 60 games in a season. You want him to play 30 to 40 at most. So, I don't see that as a massive impact on Skip. I think it'd give Højbjerg a much needed kick up the ass he needs.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, that's just my opinion, I guess. Right, you ready for some more? These are going to be quick fire from Facebook. What's your honest thoughts on how much to expect Lewis and Levy to support Conte? Not so much this window, but in the summer.
Hope or expectation?
Go on, give us your hope.
I hope he gives us lots of money. My expectation is he isn't. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Kevin, that was Kevin McPherson. Kevin, I imagine you're feeling the same as us, which is you're at a point where you're thinking they have to. You can't just keep. You have to. And we're now in the 13th day of a 31-day window, so we're well over a third of the way through, and nothing's happened. So it is worrying. Pete Thompson says, any news on how the academy and the scouting's being overhauled? Also, rumours of Nuno being what? There are rumours of Nuno being appointed as head of the academy.
Yeah, I've seen this on a couple of social media sites. Ridiculous.
I don't know where to put that.
Have you not seen it, sir?
No, I've not seen that anywhere. If that happens, I'd be very, very surprised, because our academy setup in terms of coaching is pretty good. Very, very good, in fact.
And why would he want to come back as well?
Yeah, and not be... Yeah, I don't know about that. No, I've not heard that, and I've certainly not heard it from anyone of any any reputation. With regards to the academy and the scouting being overall, the academy's not, but the scouting, our recruitment, is basically what Paratici's working on absolute relentlessly. And I was fortunate enough, I got to know and I knew very well a scout that worked for Tottenham for a time, and his view now from the outside looking in is that it's being completely overhauled, like completely overhauled. So yeah, there isn't a lot of information about it, but I will keep digging and seeing what I can find out, mostly because I'm interested. But yeah, sure. When I know, I'll talk about it on here. If it's interesting, if it's not, I won't say anything. Ryan Miller says, what are your thoughts on Ndombele's body language when he got subbed? We've kind of covered this, Ryan. Guy's a jackass. I'm done being polite. Matthew Fleming says, is it just my perception, or are Spurs awful at taking throw-ins? It feels like most of the time we have a throw-in other than in our defensive third, and the ball ends up with our opponents in possession. Is this statistically normal across football, or is it simply something we as a team do poorly? I felt this for about 5 or 6 years. For something so common in the game, it seems like Spurs are very poor at this basic part of it. I gotta be honest, mate, we're so poor at other things I've not noticed, but now you've said it, it's going to be in my head now. The next game I'm going to be watching every throw-in.
Well, do you know what's funny? Because I had looked through the questions yesterday
on
the way to the game, and this question was in my mind, funny enough, in the very sort of, as I'm watching the game, and I'm just trying to zone out from the shit I'm watching, and I'm thinking,
well that's funny, because that's how bad were they?
Yeah, exactly. But I actually saw them, but I was thinking, how can I answer this? How can I answer this question? And I mean this with no disrespect to Matthew, because I know he listens a lot and he asks a lot of questions, but I was trying to think of an analogous way to answer it. And the way I will is that I understand, I get it that he's trying to find another, well, I don't know if he is, but it looks like another negative angle for to us and how we are at the moment. But the way I would answer it in an analogy is that so before I got involved, because I've been involved with the Spurs News page for a few years now.
You have.
Before I got involved, it would be like someone leaving a really top of the range sports car on my drive and going ashores, right? So before I got involved with Spurs News, I would drive that car and just enjoy driving the car, just ignorant bliss of just enjoying sporty Spurs, not looking too much into it, just driving the car, enjoying driving the car. Since I've been getting involved with Spurs News, and also especially with the podcast, it's almost like we talk about the different parts of it. So we'll have discussions about the engine, we'll have discussions about the different. I'm not a car expert, so I can't. The gears, there we go, and then maybe we'll talk about the interior and the level and the gear stick and stuff, and then we'll talk about the bad parts of it, like the car. I took it on that drive, and beforehand, when I was just ignorant bliss, I'd be just ignore that bit, and my whole experience of the drive would be fantastic. But we're dissecting it, But this question feels like it's like now the question is, let's talk about the molecular structure of the paint. Shall we?
Yeah. So you feel like perhaps we're going too far into analysis.
It's too deep. And I understand. Look, Matthew obviously looks at games in a far deeper way than I ever will. I like to just go to a game and enjoy it and get angry when Ndombele does something stupid, and be happy and go mental when one of our players scores. But I looked at the game and I thought, I'm not looking at that game and thinking we're terrible at throw-ins. I see
your point. I do know what he means. There are sometimes you notice weird things. I've got a thing that I've spotted in games, and I don't know whether it's just being mean or not. But why is Harry Kane still taking free kicks for us?
Mate, it doesn't make any sense, does it? I mean, when he lined up to take that free kick, I think it's when it was going to be a penalty, wasn't it? And then it's he didn't take that one. It was another one. But
no, it was one earlier.
It was one earlier. That's right.
It was a better angle.
Yeah, but like I might be completely forgetting that. My mind might have erased it from my memory, but apart from that free kick he scored against Aston Villa about 5 or 6 years ago when it took a huge deflection, has he ever scored a free kick since then?
I can't think of one. I can think of recently he's made a couple of saves which shocked me. Like I literally said, whenever he lines up a free kick, I turn around to my daughter if we're together and I say, "Whoa." or crowd.
Yeah.
And that's it. Yeah. Because it's like, and last night I guessed wall and I was right.
Wall, yeah.
So that was my takeaway. But yeah, Matthew Fleming, to be honest with you, it's not something I've noticed about throw-ins. However, you know me and my stupid analytical brain now against Arsenal, and I'm watching that game. I'm going to be watching every bloody throw-in now, and I'm blaming you. Liam Hickey says, if we could overhaul the entire squad, who would get rid of, replace? For me, Galini, Sanchez, Davis, Doherty, Dele, Ndombele, Lo Celso. Wow, you're as bad as Polynesian Dan.
Yeah.
Lo Celso sees so much of Lamela and works hard but no end product. Højbjerg, I don't know what he brings really other than a fighting spirit and enthusiasm.
I don't agree.
I thought he could be a future captain, but the more I watch, the less he seems to do, and Skip is better in that holding role. I think at the moment, I think it's very easy to forget that when he came in, he did make a real impact for us, making interceptions, and he does still do that. But the thing that he's not doing now is he's not tracking runners, and a few people have told me he's never been good at that, and perhaps I just never noticed, but it's now really, really noticeable. You know, people just running off him and him not closing down the space, and the only thing I could think of is he needs a kick up the ass or he needs a rest. You know, either of those things, you know, you get the same result. Skippy, I think we just see him growing better and better and better, and he is great in that role. As for the list of players, I don't know, man. I mean, I personally think Sanchez is having a good season. I think he looks so much better in a 3. And I think when you partner him with Dyer and Romero for a while, let them have some games together, I think they'd look pretty good.
Yeah.
I think Davis is having his best season for us in 4 or 5 years in that 3 and looks better. Doherty, obviously, I agree on. Ndombele, I agree on. Lo Celso, I agree. Galini, like I said, I'm not as hateful as others, but it's only a loan, by the way, for Galini, so we don't have to sign him in the summer, so that's probably not going to happen. And the Dele thing, I think, Dele needs to go. Yeah. Cam Patel asks, what is Palatici doing? It's the 12th. It's now the 13th, but yeah, when Cam wrote this, it was the 12th, and no new players are in yet. Well, I think he's working hard to try and improve our recruitment, and he can only spend the money in a budget that's given to him. And by all accounts, Daniel Levy flew to the Bahamas to discuss that with the club's owner, and has returned just 2 days ago. So it's infinitely possible we could see some activity now because he knows what he can spend. But that would appear to be what's going on. John Dyer, with the mentality and commitment of certain players, and Ndombele, Dele, Doherty being questioned, I think our priority should be to move these players on before adding anyone new. Even if that means not signing immediate replacements, I think the squad will be better for it. The players aren't enhancing the first team, and the depth that they offer the squad for cup games is clearly just not worth having. I'd happily see youth players being given a chance instead. Do you agree? Yeah, actually, I think that's fair. Yeah. I mean, last night, losing that game to Chelsea, or the Morecambe game, I don't think the atmosphere in the ground being 1-0 down at Morecambe would have been anything like it if it had been Niall John on the pitch and not Ndombele. Do you know what I mean? Sure. Exact same level of performance, but it's a young player trying to do something, and it hasn't worked. He'd get subbed, he'd run off for a start. But I think the crowd would have just been, good effort, kid. It wouldn't have been exactly the same result, exactly the same thing going on, but the crowd would have been more supportive. When you're watching your superstar, biggest ever signing ever, struggle against Morecambe, you've got to be asking questions.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You're like, we signed you to be a Champions League player, and you're struggling against Morecambe from League One.
Yeah.
That's a valid question. But that is everything. That is all the questions. That is all the points we had to discuss. As always, a massive thank you to everybody. Apologies if we've missed anything or if you felt we didn't go into the detail you wanted. But we're tired, so we're done now. But yeah, massive thank you to everybody. We really appreciate everyone's interaction. Even when we're losing games and stuff, we still managed to have a bit of a laugh. So we will be back next week. Next week, of course, we will be discussing the North London derby results and also the rearranged fixture against Leicester, of course, which is scheduled for Wednesday. So we play Arsenal, Leicester, then Chelsea.
It's coming thick and fast, mate.
It is. It's going to be crazy, but fingers crossed we can get some results in the league. Everything's going to feel so much better. So a big thank you to you as always, mate. And everyone, if you're listening, you take care.
Take care, mate.
Thank you for listening to the Spurs News Podcast. We hope that you enjoyed the show. Stay up to date with all things Tottenham. Follow us on social media. All links are in the podcast description.